Welcome to the Tom Matt Show. You are walking through the front door of the refirement zone. And now, your host, Tom Matt.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Tom Matt Show. Thank you so much for doing that thing that we call listening to us or watching us or doing whatever you're doing. Because we come in different modes of content creation, as they like to say, content creators. Never thought I'd ever say I'm a content creator. Not a content, but it's UGC, user-generated content. They got all these videos out there now, and they want older people to do this UGC thing. I think it's cool as heck, man. Get out there and do the thing. It's going to kind of fit into what we're talking about today with Dr. Deb will be here. We're going to do a 2026 thing with her. But before we go there, I got to talk about last week. Robert Bryce was here. I'm getting into this theme for the next few weeks, everybody, with these 2026 with my big hitters, my big guest hitters. So like last week was Robert Bryce and the Power 2026 Power Trends, because, Robert's our Austin, Texas. He's such a stud, that guy. I mean, he just comes on the show. We've gotten to be pretty good friends. It's pretty sweet. And so like him a lot. And so much going on with power and AI and it's incredible. Check that one out, please. And check out all those and check out all his work in his Substack. If you want to know more about power and infrastructure and all, I just find that stuff fascinating. I do. I really do. All right. Enough of that. Dr. Debbie's here. Her bio, well, it's so tattered. I don't know. It's 15 years old. She's been with me for 15 years. It's crazy. 45th visit to the radio program. Dr. Deborah Heiser. I'm going to do a quick, this is a piece of the old bio, okay, that I've had, that I read every time, but I don't read the whole thing. Has a PhD in applied developmental psychology. She's come so far with her career with Liam and Aiden and Joel and Edith and the whole, I feel like I'm part of the family. We are part of the family. Her publications and grants and all this stuff on palliative care and depression. She's evolved way past all that. She's got the mentors, all the mentor stuff and the mentor project and all that. She created all that. And now she's moving on. That's why we're shucking and jiving and moving and grooving with today. We're going to talk about the many phases of life. Tips for 2026 with Dr. Debbie, because she's shucking and jiving and moving and grooving. Deb, when I texted you that today, the shucking and jiving, did you know what I was talking about? That's kind of a sports term.
I did not. I was like, oh, shucking corn and jiving. I don't know what else that could mean, but
I always relate it to and I'm not a basketball player whatsoever, but it's like, having the good moves on the basketball court and you're shucking and jiving, you're dribbling and you're moving,
very cool.
You're moving around and you're shucking and jiving, or it's a dance thing, you're shucking and jiving, this kind of stuff. Anyways, I told that to Deb today, everybody. So, that's where we're going to go. The many phases of life, tips for 2026. But before we go there, I want to welcome her back for her 2026 visit, first time. How's life? How's things going with the family? And let's talk about your work and everything that you're doing, girl. Go right ahead. Glad to see you and glad to hear you.
Thanks. It's good to be back on here. It's been 15 years and everything, the only thing that remains the same really is I'm still an applied developmental psychologist. My kids are grown. They're in college. One is graduating this year. They're both enjoying life.
Graduated from college?
He will be in May. And, that's all we look forward to is our kids launching, right? 15 years ago, they were just little.
I'm shocked.
It's crazy.
I'm shocked. I swear to God, everybody. It's like he's graduated from college.
Not yet. He will in May.
But he's in May. Well, okay, this semester.
Yes, he has one last semester.
I get it. I'm around college students all the time. I get it. Yeah, we live in that kind of phase. Wow, congratulations. That's huge. That's so great. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, Deb. Dang.
It is a big deal. And so I feel like my kids have grown up a lot, these past 15 years, you've been right there as my kids have been growing up. And the only thing that stays the same is I'm an applied developmental psychologist and Sandy doesn't age. No joke. If you put a picture of Sandy from today and one from 15 years ago, she looks exactly the same.
It's pretty close. I'm telling you guys.
Unbelievable. You have to market whatever it is that she does.
I'm going to say it's because she's married to me, but that is definitely not the face at all. Yeah, no, that's not it. But no, thank you for saying that. I'll make sure that she knows, she hears that. And no, she's just, the whole thing is about the nutrition and the working out. She puts her time into herself and loving herself. And, you know, these phases of life that we go through, you know, we're in our retirement zone. So it's like, you've got to love yourself. You got to do those things. We'll talk a little bit. We're going to talk a bit about all this stuff. What's going on with Joel?
Joel is working on so many projects. It's really quite amazing. You know, the one thing that I have to say is that it doesn't matter what age you are. So 15 years later, you know, he could retire, but he's got new projects that he's working on and new startups. And it's just amazing. He's got as much energy now that he's ever had.
That's the thing about the word retire, Deb. We've talked about this with, you know, you've taught me so much about generativity and aging and all of this stuff. It's been such a great journey for me to learn from you. 45 times we've talked, and we've talked many times off air about things. So, you know, we've had many, many hours of conversations about this. And so it's just, it's crazy how things can change. And Joel, he's never going to retire. I can't see that happening. That's the thing about us being constantly in the retirement zone, everybody. And I don't want to dissuade any younger listeners out there, because I work with college students all the time. And it's like, you know what? They want our input. We'll talk a lot about this kind of stuff. We'll talk about helping them. But in your retirement zone, we have to develop what we want to do here. So the many phases of life. How do you like it, Deb? I mean, we go through these things. I have that quote from Scott Adams. I can do that now if you'd like, and we can set this whole thing up, because it kind of, let's do that, because as a testimonial, because as we're recording this, everybody, and Scott Adams is a very well-known author out there. He passed away, unfortunately, had a long illness recently, just a few days ago, according to what, you know, our recording schedule here. And I heard a quote, and I threw this to Debbie, and it had to do with goals and his quote on systems. And I sent it to Debbie, and we're going to kind of frame up around this quote, because I want to talk about the phases of life today, everybody, in retirement. So please bear with me as I read this. And then Debbie and I will discuss this throughout the show, because this is about the many phases of life. And we want you to be successful. This is a quote from Scott Adams. A goal is a specific objective that you either achieve or don't sometime in the future. A system is something you do on a regular basis that increases your odds of happiness in the long run. You see where we're going here, kind of, everybody? But you got to listen to the whole, you know, his whole explanation here, because I think it's much clearer as you read on. If you do something every day, it's a system. If you're waiting to achieve it someday in the future, it's a goal. If you achieve your goal, you celebrate and feel terrific, but only until you realize you just lost the thing that gave you purpose and direction. That's really where we got to talk with Debbie about this. Your options are to feel empty and useless. Again, talking to Dr. Debbie about this, perhaps enjoying the spoils of your success until they bore you, or set new goals and re-enter the cycle of permanent pre-success failure, which I don't really like that so much, pre-success failure. But I'm just going with what he wrote here. All I'm suggesting is that thinking of goals and systems as very different concepts has power, which I totally agree with, 100%. Goal-oriented people exist in a state of continuous pre-success failure at best, which I don't agree with, and permanent failure at worst if things never work out, which is possibly true. Systems people succeed every time they apply their systems in the sense that they did what they intended to do. The goals people are fighting and feeling of discouragement at each turn. Again, that's so agreeable on that one. The systems people are feeling good every time they apply their system. Okay. That's a big difference in terms of maintaining your personal energy in the right direction. A little bit long there, Deb, you know, and I got about 30 seconds before we're going to go to break here. I'm glad I could squeeze that thing in here. But there's a lot of things we can pull out of this that fit into our concept today, right? With many phases of life.
Absolutely. I look at what he's saying, and, you know, every group of individuals who talks about things talks about them using different words. And I want to introduce a few new words that might make it even easier for people to understand.
And this fits perfect with where we're at, everybody. Dr. Debbie's here. The many phases of life, tips from 2026, a little bit of a tribute to Scott Adams and one of his dynamic quotes that he has here. He was always a controversial guy. And you know what? We're giving him a tribute today, and we're talking about how this can help us, you and I and Debbie and all of us. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you, Sandy, for bringing us back and that nice voice of yours on radio. It's kind of funny because if you just listen to the video stuff that we do, everybody, you don't hear Sandy's voice. And so please go listen to the podcast, the actual audio radio version. It's on the website. It's on all the players. It's on everything. So Apple Play, everything. And it's on YouTube as well. So go listen to that, and then you can hear her very, very nice voice. This segment is sponsored by Brock Fletcher, selling team of Keller Williams Realty, where trust is their middle name. It's their last name. It's their name. Okay. Phone numbers are 517-853-6408. This is Brock's cell phone number, his preferred method of you connecting with him. So please jot this down. I'll say it twice. 517-303-3262. Again, 517-303-3262. You can go online to kwsellingteam.com, kwsellingteam.com, where they have the sweetest website you've ever seen. So great. Very, 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 very nice. I mean, they don't play around when it comes to the marketing, the money that Brock invests in marketing, where other brokers and other real estate agents, no offense, they don't invest their money to help you get the best bang for your buck. And that's why Brock and his team is so successful. I want to say, hey, what up to Mikey Deadman, who helped us buy Little House Lansing, and Brock helped us sell Big House Holt. I mean, you guys have heard all these stories. This stuff is true blue. You got to use them. You got to at least listen to the Reality of Real Estate on a radio program, which doesn't cost a dime, and just listen to Brock. And Brock is very encouraging about just making relationship connections. And even if you just want to, you're not in the market for 2 or 3 years, through 5 years, we're going to work on getting first-time buyers going too. We're going to do a whole show on it here just very soon. That's how much we're intentional about getting first-time buyers into real estate so that you can start to acquire wealth and live the life that you deserve to live. Got that? 517-303-3262, kwsellingteam.com. That's Brock Fletcher at the Selling Team. Love them. They're the bomb. Dr. Debbie's here. Okay, so the many phases of life, tips for 2026. We're basing this around, and here's the concept sentence where I kind of thought about this, and I heard it on media yesterday from Scott Adams. Goals, he kind of was framed up as goals are for losers and systems are for winners. Okay, but that is not a very good definition, not a good takeaway from what Scott was intending. And Dr. Debbie and I just read this, the whole quote from his book in the first segment. So Deb, you want to pick through some of the things that we're talking about here, and you have some different language that you want to use instead of, goals are for such harsh one. If you're a hammer, is there a nail around kind of stuff? I mean, can I whack it harder? But can we make this a little not so harsh, but got some language?
Yeah, I do. So I want to first say that, in midlife, we start to talk about passion rather than goals, because goals are set by others oftentimes for us when we're younger. We have a goal to get a career. We have a goal to finish school. We have a goal to goal, but they aren't ours. They're boxes we're checking. And so you can succeed or not succeed, but it's the everyday thing. When he's talking about systems, that's what we're doing every day. We might call it the slog, or we might call it whatever, but it's our day-to-day stuff. We are making impact every single solitary day, but we never register it. So if we're focused only on goals or passion, and passion is, most people will be like, I don't even know what my passion is, so that's like an overwhelming term. So as a goal, go get a goal. Well, in what? It's too big. It's too overarching. It's intimidating. But if you just live your life, you are making impact every day, and they are your goals because you're just living them. So examples are holding the door open for somebody. You can change an entire culture of a workplace or an institution just by starting that. Then everybody else starts to do it. by smiling at people when you pass them in the hallway, by doing tiny acts of kindness, which you would be doing anyway. We just never acknowledge these things. Then they build up. Then once you get intentional about it, it ends up being like a goal, or that it turns into a passion. I'm going to do this everywhere. It makes me feel so good. So I think that the emotion is left out of what he was talking about. And so if we think in terms of impact, that is something that we can all grab onto, because we're all doing it literally every single day. There's not a day the person has woken up, taken the breaths and steps that they've taken all day long, and then go to bed that they haven't made impact.
Okay, so this is one of the sentences, Dr. Debbie talking about this quote that from Scott Adams. We're kind of talking about this and her examples of passion and impact. I love it so much. Okay, let me find this here, because this is one of the lines that I agree with a lot of it, and I don't agree with some of it. So this is one that I don't agree with so much. Okay, everybody. So goal-oriented people exist in a state of continuous pre-success failure at best. That to me is a perspective thing. And to me, it depends. Again, going back to my doctor friends, it's saying it depends. Okay. And permanent failure at worst if things never work out. Systems people succeed every time. Not necessarily. I mean, what if they don't even know they're in a system? So it's like, it's a very fine line here. And what Debbie's talking about is passion and impact. And I agree with what you said, Deb, with, goals are really, really big. I mean, really, really, really big. And so if we're going to make use of the phases of our lives, which you've been doing lately, matter of fact, take a couple minutes here and talk about some of the stuff you've been doing lately to help with your passion and your refirement, because we're going to fold all this together. I got a couple minutes before we go to break here, and I want to come back and talk about some more of this other goal stuff. But what are you doing? What are you doing personally that's giving you some passion?
So right now I'm shifting, and my passion is now that I'm looking to quantify impact that we make. We all talk about legacy. We all talk about all the things, and most people think, I haven't done anything. Do I matter? What's my footprint? And they don't even realize how much they do, how important they are. It's like we're all living the It's a Wonderful Life, where until like Clarence rings his bell, you don't know what you've done to change a community or a system or a family. And so I'm creating an app right now called My Legacy Tree, where we're able to map out our own impact, what we've been doing, small and large, to see what that snowball effect is. So it's like taking LinkedIn and Ancestry.com and pushing them together and making your own legacy tree. So that's what my new passion is.
And the other thing that you didn't even mention this, and this is so cool that she didn't mention this, because I follow Debbie, we're very close, but you've been doing so much on social media with your video stuff. And it's great. You've been polishing your presence right now on sorry for the radio people who can't see what we're talking about right now, but her presence on camera is outstanding. This has been an evolution. Dr. Debbie's here, everybody. The many phases of life, tips for 2026. I've got something I want to share with you about goals. When we come back, my little model that we're going to run by, we're talking about Scott Adams' quote, and goals are not for losers. We just got to figure them out a little better. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Tom Matt Show. This is Tom Matt talking in a deep voice. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Debbie's here. I had so many different titles for this episode because it's our 2026, kickoff with Dr. Debbie. I'm doing these kind of themes for next few shows with my big hitters. And Dr. Debbie is definitely, she's the biggest of the big hitters because she's been on the show 45th time. 45th time. The only way that she could be on this show 45 times because I have great sponsors, and through the years, it's been awesome. And I have to say that Brock Fletcher is just, again, you know how much we love the guy, And this is the part where I do testimonials. But before I go there, I want to say what up to Joan Wright. Joan Wright lives out in Williamston. She's a customer of Brock's, and she's a fan of the show. Listens to us on WKAR on Sundays at 5 p.m. So you can check us out on radio, and it's where you get all 5 segments. So it's a great experience, and we love WKAR so much. Thank you for carrying us on PBS over there. And Joan, we hope you're doing well. Phone numbers 517-853-6408 and 517-303-3262. I'll give that last one to you in a second here. But here's a testimonial from Eric and Laura Lansing. Our experience with Brock Fletcher and the selling team was amazing and bold type. Numerous times Brock Fletcher went above and beyond to ensure our needs were met. Not only did the selling team sell our home in 4 days, 4 days. Did I say 4 days? I think I said 4 days. They also helped us find our dream home in a weekend. You know what? When you're flipping and you're buying, you're talking stress, baby, because we've been there a couple of times. And it's like, it ain't. And it's so competitive out there now, you guys. It's so darn competitive in real estate. It's like you gotta have people helping you out with this stuff. I'm telling you, been down the road. And it's just trying to give you a little bit of education. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, help yourself, okay? They are so glad they chose the selling team. That's Eric and Laura in Lansing, Michigan. Thank you for that testimonial. And thank you to Brock Fletcher. Again, 517-303-3262 is his cell phone. Text him. He prefers that, by the way. You can leave him a voicemail, too. He's just not the email thing. It's just kind of, there's so many messages, everybody. I get messages on every platform that you can imagine. I had to cut it off on some of these platforms. It's like, no more. Get a hold of Brock on his cell phone, 517-303-3262. All right, back to Dr. Debbie. All right, so we're talking about the many faces of life, tips for 2026. Dr. Debbie, is an applied psychologist, and she's an aging expert. She's an expert in a lot of different fields. Deb, did you have some thoughts you wanted to say before I get into my goal thing, continuing the conversation we're talking about with Scott Adams? We're doing a little bit of a testimonial to him, everybody. Did you have some more language you wanted to throw out there with this, or did you want me to just go into my thing with the goals?
I will just say something really quickly, and that is that most of us know the term goal. Most of us also don't realize that goals are things that we set, and they are not the end of anything. So if you achieve a goal, it can morph into another, and it can morph into another. But we look at it as one standing thing, and then I'm done. And so it makes us feel like we're constantly needing to add something else because we feel like, oh, I'm done. Now what? And then we have that same feeling over and over again. And I work with so many midlifers that I want to, really stress that our life is a journey, and it is passions and goals and all of these things. You are doing it every day. You're just not acknowledging it. And it's that start and stop that we keep thinking we need to have that you don't need to have.
Here's the thing. Goals are steps, everybody. Take it from the trainer. I'm a coach, Goals are steps in the journey. I just wrote this down before Debbie even said it. So that's how we're on the same wavelength. I wrote down goals are steps in the journey. And you know how I always talk about small wins all the time, because that's the thing about this. I'm having a little disagreement with Scott's analogy here and his statement, which is fine. I mean, everybody is entitled to their opinion. I understand where he's coming from, like Debbie's talking about. But it's like small wins. Now, here's my thing, Deb. And what you said earlier about goals are big, big things. That's the problem here, everybody. My model is called the prime objective, okay? And I've never talked to Debbie about this before, and I'm going to get her opinion on this. My prime objective is like, okay, we have the goal, but what we want to do is, okay, you've defined that goal. It's a tight goal. We're going to step back from the goal, and we're going to define the 2 or 3 things that are imperative in your life to achieving that goal. The 2 or 3 things. It could be, maybe it's your relationship. Maybe it's your workout routine. It depends on what the goal is. If you're preparing for a show or you're getting ready for some kind of academic thing or something like that, you hear what I'm saying, everybody. Everybody's going to be different. Your goal is going to be different. So what are the 2 or 3 things? I got to keep this things, for me to be simple, I got to be simple. So keep it simple. 2 or 3 things that are going to be the giant enablers that are going to get you to that goal. That's it. That's the prime objective. Once you achieve that goal, then we reestablish the prime objective, which is the 2 or 3 things. And then we move forward and the step process. Do you like that, Deb?
I do. I think that's how we get to doing all the things that we're ever doing. So I'll give you an example. I remember, what was it? 2023, I was asked to write a book. But prior to that, I had been writing blogs. I had been doing things, little steps all along the way. I wanted to write a book. I just didn't know how that was going to happen. But I thought, let me take the steps that a person would need. I need to write. I need to get my ideas down. I need to get my thoughts down. Well, somebody saw it and they said, hey, would you like to write a book? Then I had the ability to achieve that goal. So if you're doing things that can lead to something, like you're saying, the prime objective, the big thing, just do it. Act on it. It's that which is impact. Had I never stepped out and done those things, no one would have said, hey, would you like to write a book? So I then was able to write the book. And I said, well, okay, I achieved that goal. Am I done? No. Now I'm stepping out and doing new things, like you mentioned, like which was the cringiest thing I ever could have imagined, which was to go on social media and make videos. But I'm doing it.
Hold up. Excuse me. Why? I got to ask you this now. Here I'm going on there. You're going to lay down on the couch. Here I am, Dr. Tom. Lay down there, patient. Why did you think that was a cringy thing? Explain to the people out there. I know where you're going, but why in your soul did you feel this? Now, we're talking a psychologist, professional, trained person, and she still felt cringy. Everybody, you see where I'm going with this? Debbie, so why did you feel cringy?
Okay, I'll take you to the Wayback Machine. I've always been afraid of public speaking. I remember being in school as a little kid, and they would say, never speak out. You'll only be seen as a fool if you're not correct. So that stuck with me. So then I had a fear of public speaking and I had a great desire to give a TED Talk. How can you do that if you're afraid of public speaking? So then I had to teach at the college level because I figured I'll have to start somewhere. Then I gave the TED Talk. Now it didn't go away, that fear. My next fear was, oh my gosh, I'm going to be out on social media. And of course, everybody's going to, see me. It's the fear of being seen. Somebody's going to hear me or see me saying something that maybe it'll be wrong. Maybe they'll, have an opinion that's different than mine. And then I have to deal with that. That's really what it all boils down to. And I'm doing it. And now I don't care. So.
What? And you forgot one key thing. You forgot about that guy from Michigan who hit you up 15 years ago about doing radio.
Oh, come on. Yes. It went way back 15 years. And do you remember how afraid I was?
I absolutely remember.
And you and
I didn't
Sandy
know it at the time, though. You
and Sandy got on and you were like, don't you worry. It'll get better if you do it again. I was thinking, I'm going to never do this again. I'm like, what do you mean it'll get better? And I was like, are you kidding me? And then when you called and said, would you like to do it again? I remember just sweating. I was like, thank goodness, like I wasn't even on air, like there was no seeing me, but I combed my hair and no one was going to see me.
It was strictly audio. It was audio only.
But you're right. It went back to that. It was all commingled because that was the time 15 years ago.
Okay.
I decided to make that passion move.
I got to stop you there because we're coming at a hard break here, Dr. Debbie. That is a fact. And we're going to expand on this when we come back here because you know what? That's how you get confidence, baby. You get in the ring and you go. This is the Tom Matt Show.
This segment of the Tom Matt Show is brought to you in part by the Source of Light and Power by band leader Ark of All and broadcaster Mitch Anderson. Hear the sound that is endorsed by Odyssey headphones, linear tube audio, RME converters, and Peluso microphones at sourceoflightandpower.bandcamp.com.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. Dr. Debbie's here. We're firing off so much between our segments here. We have a minute to talk, and it's like, hold on. We're having a good time talking about those. We're getting each other fired up about the many phases of life for tips for 2026. That's for both of us, for all the guests that come on this radio program. We just want you guys to get better. I want to get better. I want you to have a great life. and so does Dr. Debbie. Debbie, how do you want people to contact you? You got this new project you're working on. You're doing all of the TikToks, and your videos they're great, and you're just getting you're a pro now. You've done it. You've done radio 45 times, 15 years. You've done radio 15 years. That's something.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about that in a second, everybody. But how do you want people to connect with you?
You can find me on Substack. You can find me. So it's Deborah Heiser. It's called The Right Side of 40. You can find me on Psychology Today. I write for Psychology Today, The Right Side of 40, deborahheiser.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on every social media platform now as well. Dr. Deborah Heiser.
Easy. LinkedIn, all the social media, everything, it's all out there. Okay, so we're back to the many faces of life. And the previous segment, we were talking how Debbie made a comment where she said she's doing this new project, the Legacy Tree. But I was commenting on her video presence because she's become much more out there doing the video, and they're great. And they're excellent. I mean, they're short, they're tight. They're exactly what social media is for. And that's what I love about social media. I mean, you don't like it, don't watch it. Period. Turn the channel. So Debbie, you said the cringiest thing, and you went through all this stuff, and then you didn't mention, your 15 years of radio and how that helped, and how that all. And again, the universe brought us together. Talk about that. Let's do a little walk down memory lane.
If I'm to talk about this in psychological terms, you kicked off my exposure therapy. Because I didn't start out on video, I started out on radio, and I actually would get myself with my hair combed and dressed to be on the radio where no one would see me because it was so frightening to me. And if you remember, I was so prepared, I would give you PowerPoints ahead of time. I mean, how ridiculous. But that was the beginning of the journey of me saying, I'm ready to be seen now. I think that I can talk to people and I know what I'm saying, and I'm an expert in this, and I want to be heard finally. And truly, that really was the kickoff. That day, I remember it in Queens, New York, where I lived, and sitting at a desk all made up where no one could see me, and talking with you and sweating. And then Sandy getting on afterwards saying, it'll get better.
That's true. And we have had so many good stories, and we'll reminisce on a few things here, everybody. But let me tell you, you were great. You were great. And exposure therapy, that's a great term for you. And you guys, go out there and give it a shot. Just give it a shot. I reached out to Debbie. I was struggling with getting guests and being nervous about reaching out to these really smart people. So on the flip side, I'm afraid to reach out to Debbie because she's this applied developmental psychologist in Queens, New York. And, she's big time, and she's got, what was it called? Where was it? I'm trying to look through the notes here. What was it called? The first thing where I found you, Deb, the very Imagine-Age. Thank you. Sorry, it took a minute to find it. Imagine-Age. So I was all nervous about that. And so to get guests like you, that was fantastic. I mean, everybody goes through these steps. Again, we're going back to what we were talking about in the previous segments, you guys. And we're just talking about the many phases of life. We all go through these things. We got to continue to think about the goals. Like Scott Adams gave us the help with the framing up of this episode today. But goals are not for losers. Goals are for smart people who know how to apply them correctly. Deb, go back again and talk about the goals or steps and the journey and all that, because we got to reinforce this with everybody, why this works. Would you please go right ahead?
Sure. So if we're going to talk about goals or passions, those big things that we want, they tend to run through things that we're always doing all the time. So just like you told me and reminded me, hey, this went back 15 years. I forget about the things that I do because I do it so often. 45 times later, it becomes like breathing. We all do that. So we have to remind ourselves that the goal isn't end. That goal that I've had has just shifted over time. It started with radio not being seen, it moved on to giving a TED Talk, to teaching, to writing a book, to now I'm on TikTok, but these are the kinds of things that it didn't ever change. It's just flowing differently. So if we can think of goals and passion as something that we want to strive for, we just need to tweak our everyday and acknowledge our everyday and be intentional in our everyday, because it's that, it's the getting on the radio show, or it might be that if you're just starting out on something, that you're writing something, because that is one step, further behind the scenes. You just put yourself out in one kind of a way. If you're somebody that's doing exercise, it's just one thing. You maybe count your steps every day. You do one little thing, and that becomes a part of your routine, but that's moving you towards a passion and goal. So there's no losing in that ever. You might shift it.
Let me jump in just
losing.
let me add one thing, Deb, real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, but Dr. Debbie's here. And she's just throwing out so many things. When you just said be intentional, this is one little tip I'm just going to throw out to everybody real quick. For me personally, for me to be better about getting better, as I always like to say all the time, it was putting things on my calendar, on my phone, my calendar. I was so bad about this. When we first started radio 15 years ago, Debbie's showing me her over camera. She's showing me her calendar. When we started this whole thing 15 years ago, you guys, a small win for me was to admit to myself, I can't do this. I'm double booking. I'm losing guests. I just said I had the fear about getting guests. Now I'm screwing it up because I'm missing the appointment. After I worked so hard to get the guests, I'm a newbie doing this thing, and I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm giving it a shot. And so the calendar has been massive. And it went a little longer than I wanted to, Deb, but that's just one little tip about intentionality. Yeah.
That's a great way of tracking things, because you can go back over time. If I go back over time, I can see the things that I've done, and I'm like, oh, I did more than I thought. So if you reflect every week or every month or every year, I learned from Bell Labs, someone who worked there, that at the end of the year, they would have to write an I am great sheet about all the things that they did over the course of the year. And everyone was surprised at how much they did and they accomplished. And if you make yourself an I am great sheet at the end of every month, at the end of every year, you'll find that you are actually achieving more goals, more passions. You are much more impactful than you could ever imagine.
Let me tell you guys something, because I had a thought. I lost the train of thought for a second because we're doing so many different things here. But what Dr. Debbie's here today, we're talking about the many phases of life. When Dr. Debbie first started with us, and she would send me those PowerPoint slide presentations, she was kind of dogging herself a little bit. And the perception I was getting from her, because she was like so nervous. But I loved her slides. I still have her slides. Her folder is the thickest folder of any of my guest folders. I kept all of them because they're so strong. So never diminish yourself. The limiting beliefs that we sometimes just put in our own heads. See how it just, I'm nervous about reaching out to get guests. Debbie's nervous about coming on a radio show. So she sent me the PowerPoint. She thinks that's kind of goofy, and I'm thinking it's great, but we never tell each other these things. So see what I'm talking? There you go, back to your word of intentionality, Deb. There you go.
Intentionality, Tom, trumps humility. We're all told to be humble. And, it's very hard to be humble and try to achieve your goals, because if you're trying to do something forward facing or state to the world you're doing a goal, whether that's fitness or whatever. So you can still be humble while being intentional. Intentionality trumps that, which is one of those things that I think most people can grasp onto and achieve.
For sure. And if you're strategic in your intentionality, you can really move forward. Okay, Deb, we got one more segment to go, and I got about 30 seconds to go. Where do you want to take this? Because we've been talking about the many phases and using Scott Adams as as a framework for what we're talking about today. Where would you like to talk about, just to kind of paint a little picture here? What are you thinking?
I'd love to be able to talk about how we can take our everyday activities and turn them into a snowball effect of impact.
Boom. See, this is how it works, everybody, because Debbie, I throw her these things. She has no idea. I'm going to throw this challenge to her, and now I'm going to hold her feet to the fire, and we're going to talk about this everyday thing so we get the snowball thing going, because that's the whole point of the many phases of our life. Also, it's the beginning of the year. Also, it's got New Year's resolutions, and I want to really help people. That's why I'm doing so many videos on the New Year's resolution stuff. Keep going. You're listening to The Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com. This is The Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Tom Matt Show. Dr. Debbie's here. Dr. Deborah Heiser, Long Island, New York. Many phases of life. Tips for 2026. Based off of the Scott Adams theme and quote, and to paraphrase the whole thing, goals are for losers and systems are for winners. And we were kind of bouncing around having fun with this thing, but it's the phases of life that we really wanted to talk about, and it just sort of morphed into another Debbie and our conversation, 45th time on the radio program. Debbie, I want to please share your contact info one more time, just so people who are just joining us, they want to get a hold of you for some speaking or some counseling or whatever. Are you available for? And I haven't asked that in a long time. Do you still do one-on-one counseling with people? Would you be available for stuff like that?
Yeah. I do. So I do meet with people one-on-one. I tend to take about 3 people at a time. And I also, so I don't usually keep a huge practice. And I do give talks all the time.
Okay. So there you go. How would you like people to connect with you?
You can reach me at deborahheiser.com. You can reach me on my Substack, Dr. Deborah Heiser, or it's called The Right Side of 40, through Psychology Today. I write for them. You can also reach me at deborahheiser@gmail.com.
Okay. So here's the thing. We were talking about the many phases of life, tips for 2026. And I had written down positivity and your personal refirement zone. I had all these thoughts and all these ideas because the refirement zone, you guys, is all about your just daily life. And as we morphed into the show, we started talking about the goals because Scott Adams' framework that we're using, goals are for losers. Goals are steps, as Debbie has described to us, and I agree with her 1,000%. Goals are steps in the journey of your life, okay? They're just achieve a goal, get to the next goal. And I told you guys about my prime objective model, which is basically, I just want to revisit that real quick, Deb, before we get into the everyday snowball thing you wanted to talk about. But my prime objective thing, when I say you have 2 or 3 things that are going to help you get to that goal, it's removing all of the noise. Because when you take away all the other distractions and you have the 2 or 3 things that are going to help you with that goal, now, right? That's the thing that I'm trying to drive home to people because they think they can do this 3rd, 4th, 5th thing and keep it in their life, but that's a distraction and that's not helping you get to where you. And if you're serious about getting your goal accomplished, if you're serious, that's my point, Deb. And I want to get your opinion on that.
I think that I love everything you talk about, and you live your life like a pie, if you were to think of a pie and slices. And that's a good way for most of us to live, where you say, I only have a pie that's so big. The slices can only add up to 100% of the pie. So you can't have 150% of your pie. So I tell people to live by your pie. And if you have too much that you're doing in one area and it's not making you happy, make that slice a little different. So, you were talking to me, off air about how you were like, I don't know if I should go work for the gym or if I should just go to the gym, but I love going to the gym. That's living your everyday. You could call that living your goal. You are living your goal. Now that may be working or going. Which one is it? That can be in the pie as gym. You could slice that up as work or as just gym, but you're still going to be there. You're still doing that. You're not giving that up. That is a passion. That is a goal, but you're living it every day. So most of us are always doing that. And if you're able to make that part, intentional, where you're writing it in a journal, you're thinking of your life as a pie. A lot of people have a gaping hole where they're not filling some part of their pie. And that's the part that they're saying, oh, I need to fill it with a passion or a goal. And then they're sitting around searching for something without realizing that every day they're kind of doing something that they like. And it could be a hobby. It could be something that, brings them pleasure. I've talked to some people and they've said, oh yeah, I paint. And I was like, your walls are filled with art. Why did you never mention that as anything about you? Oh, I didn't think it was a part of what I do. I identified as a teacher. Okay. So it's part of it is thinking, what do I do every day that I get pleasure out of? And why am I not counting it? Being intentional about acknowledging the things that you do every day, because you're probably engaging in passion projects and you don't know it. You're making impact, but you don't realize it, those kinds of things.
That's the thing about the small wins list, everybody. Dr. Debbie's our guest today, everybody. We're talking about the many phases of life. That's the thing about my small wins list, and this is why it works, because your intentionality, it lays it out for you. You put it on the refrigerator, and it's like, oh, I had that limiting belief where I disregarded that little accomplishment that I have. You know why? I shaved 100 calories. I didn't drink that soda yesterday. These are small wins they're sustainable and they're achievable. And that's the whole point about this. All right, let's get back into it. And I like the fill the void thing. And by the way, my surgeon used the pie analogy on me when I was going through my really, really hard times with my legs. And he was busting me down about me taking too much of my pie. He exactly said what you said. I was taking 150% of my pie and I didn't have it. And it was costing me dearly. And so when you started talking about that, like, are you kidding me? But this is the way, you know what? Listen to your doctor friends, everybody. All right, Deb, I want to give you time. You got 4 or 5 minutes to go here. Talk about your everyday, the snowball thing, because it's going to wrap this all up in a nice bow for us. But we had the Scott Adams story. I think I've kind of beat that down enough that, the last sentence of that column, everybody, was, that's a big difference in terms of maintaining your personal energy in the right direction. He's talking about systems and goals. All right, Deb, we've beat that one down enough. Let's talk about your everyday, the snowball effect.
Sure. So I like to think of our impact as being about us at this point, particularly once you're in midlife. All of our goals beforehand were set oftentimes by others. You go to work and it's not your goal, it's somebody else's. You have all kinds of goals that are set by others. Once you hit the passion stage and you're saying, who am I? How do I matter? What can I do? Your everyday impact are the things that you do every day. And those can snowball. And the example that I always give is when I walked into the university where I teach, and in the very beginning, I noticed that everyone holds the door open for the person coming behind. Even if that person takes a minute or two, they're still holding the door. There's a culture that started by one person that started holding the door for everybody. So every semester I remind the students, I say, oh, you're not the jerk that doesn't hold the door open, right? Like keeping it going. And then everybody gets to feel really good when they're holding the door for somebody. Now, people will say, that's so tiny. But when you change a culture with a tiny act, when you're smiling at people, when you do something that matters to you, maybe it's something that you're doing for yourself. You're counting the steps that you take every day to see if you can get a little more strong. You're going to the counting something that you're doing in the gym, seeing a little bit of progress. When you're intentional about that and you make that something that especially that you can quantify over time, that might be putting it in your book. I put my steps in my book. I put everything in my book because I want to win. I live by that. I need a win every day. We all do. But you can then see the snowball effect. Nobody drops 30 pounds in a day. Nobody gets there from not doing something. You don't change a culture just in one movement. It's tiny little steps that become a snowball. But most of us just look up one day and say, where did that come from? How did that happen? And it's the intentionality that gets us there. And it's the quantification of our daily tiny actions. So I think that's incredibly important for all of us to make us feel like we matter for ourselves.
2 things I want to mention here before I give it back to Debbie for her close. Random acts of kindness work. She's talking about random acts of kindness. Oh, holding the door open. Random acts of kindness work. Random acts of kindness work. You buy somebody something behind you in the line at a coffee shop, whatever. Hold the door open, something simple. Give somebody a smile. Compliment their shoes. kids, especially college students, they love getting compliments on their kicks. Take it from me. I know because I've done it a million times. They love it. Okay. So the random acts of kindness. And there was one other thing I wanted to do, but with the intentionality, and now it's like it slipped my mind. But just keep the random acts of kindness in the forefront. And I want to go to Debbie for her close now because I've talked too much, and then we eat up all of our time. And I want to make sure that Debbie, this has been an outstanding 2026 kickoff. Tips for many phases of our life. Thank you so much for being my friend and coming on and doing this stuff. What's your takeaway from this? How can we keep people on the straight with their New Year's resolutions? Because, this is going to air in the early part of 2026. What would you do? What's to add into the snowball effect of just keeping people with small wins and steps and all of these good things? What's a 1.5 minute takeaway you want to give to everybody to keep that resolution going?
I just wrote about that for Psychology Today, and that's to stay away from shame-based goals. Anything that you say, I'm gonna overhaul my life. I'm gonna try to change myself because I'm fat, or I'm gonna try to do something where you're shaming yourself. Remove the shame. You do only things that are positive facing forward, not shame-based, things that you know that you can do. I'm going to try to drink 8 glasses of water today. I'm going to try to make something that I can build on because then it feels good. Because 77% of people fail their resolutions within the first week. So you want to be like the, 20% that make it last throughout the year. And by doing that, it's just taking away any shame-based goals that you're setting for yourself.
Love it. Perfect close, perfect timing. She's a pro, been here, 45th visit, 15 years on radio. She's a total pro. The many phases of life, tips for 2026. You missed any portion of the show, go get it. If our show fits your business or group's mission, we want to be of service to you through our guests. Sponsorships are available. If you fit, let me know. Hit us up. Always remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. Thanks to Dr. Debbie for being here. Sandy, Brock, you rock. We'll talk to you next weekend, everybody. Have a great week. Go out and ignite your life. Remember, the Tom Matt Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. We want to bring your story to life. And lastly, I want to say thank you to Mitch Anderson and Vanessa for doing all those good things they do to keep us rolling. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. We are out.
The Tom Matt Show is produced by Mitch Anderson of Black Circle Studios. Original music from the Source of Light and Power by the Ark of All.